This was a panel I really worked hard to put together when I first started putting together the conference, and this is the panel I called my super panel, where I got all the various operational government agencies that are supposed to be making decisions and are all together on one panel, and for an opportunity to talk about what they're doing, how they're working together, and open up the opportunity for you to ask them some questions. Moderating this panel today, I have Andy Bachman, the Smart Grid Security blog, and IBM Rational, correct?
That's still true, yes.
That's still true. And I'm just going to hand it over to Andy. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I just want to say it's an extreme pleasure and privilege to be here doing this the 3 days this week. Attend many conferences, speak at many conferences, and yet it already feels like, even though this is only the second one of its type, this is the one. This is the one where it's our small knit group that's getting together and starting to get to know each other in a way that it didn't before, and sometimes getting to know each other is good. In case with me, you may consider it a negative, especially after what I'm about to do. Second, I'm going to introduce these guys, and then they're going to have a Q&A. I don't know, it must be some type of pathological infection, but I'm going to do this one more time whether you like it or not. Well, actually, I'm not going to do it. I was considering talking about measurement and demonstrating progress, because we started to talk about it the first day and we didn't really make any traction. We started talking about the second day, didn't make too much traction. Third day, this is today, and here we are again. I just want to just give you one example of something I don't want to talk about. 3 years ago, I started a thing called the Smart Grid Security, the DOE Energy Blog. At the time, this was before the gas prices went up in the summer of 2008, up to, do you remember, $4 plus? It seemed like we're heading there again. And oil was 150-ish at a barrel. And Department of Defense, which had previously considered fuel and fuel costs as sort of a rounding area, a cost of doing business, seeing that elevated when they're fueling their own cars around the Pentagon, and seeing, more importantly, the cost in human life and the negative impact on the mission that fuel convoys were having in Iraq and Afghanistan, finally said, you know what, fuel isn't about, watching fuel and being fuel efficient, energy efficient, isn't about granola or Birkenstocks or Kumbaya. It's about the mission. It is fundamental to our mission. Our mission goes better when we're proactive on fuel and energy issues, and our mission is impaired or killed when we are asleep at the wheel on it. One thing I can say, and I have said on the DOD Energy blog, it's now written by a different guy, so I have time to do the other one, is you could see a difference. In 2011, there are a number of lenses into the way the DOD manages its energy. There's plenty of problems, but you can see improvement happening at the installations and in the operations in the field too, over in the theater. It's really cool to see that happen in 3 years. So yes, I don't want to talk about measurement here. It's only been 2 years on that blog, the Smart Grid Security blog. Maybe in third year it'll be different, but right now it's hard to say, it's hard to show that we're substantially different to the people who matter the most to us in terms of the survival and the health of our community, the regulators, the Congress, and I would say maybe most importantly, the C-level guys at the utilities. Guys are like, what am I getting for my security dollar? You can't even explain it to me in words I understand, can you? Didn't think so. Okay, next. We've got to do better at that part, and that's why I'm not going to talk about it. Okay, you know I'm done the tirade when I start with the intros, and so our first speaker and his last opportunity to perform today is Bill Hunteman. I've had the pleasure of talking to on the phone many times, but now in person, it's a great experience. And you've heard different details of his background. I'm just going to say, between 2006 and 2010, Bill was the CISO. I like CISOs. I'd like to see more of them for DOE. So 4-year stint there. Prior to that, in case you didn't know, he did some heavy lifting at Los Alamos and Sandia National Labs. And this is probably the most interesting part. This is on your program, so you can see it. You probably never would have expected to do this in your lifetime. He was involved in international cybersecurity criteria, and he helped Russia improve its cybersecurity program to better protect its nuclear weapons complex. That is pretty neat. right?
Yes.
Okay. He went to school in Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Oregon, and for fun, he plays with trains. Our next contestant is Mark Lauby from NERC, where he is VP and Director of Reliability Assessments and Performance Analysis. He had a major stint at EPRI before that, serving in multiple positions. He was also in MAP, Mid-Continent Area Power Pool, which is in Minneapolis, and his school is U, Minnesota. Does that mean you know of a guy named Masood Amin?
He arrived after I left, but yes. We worked together at EPRI.
Okay, excellent. That's right.
I fondly call it MIT, though, the Minnesota Institute of Technology.
I'm sure there's room. I'm sure there's room for more than one MIT. People in Cambridge would disagree. And for fun, when Mark's not doing this, he's restoring furniture. Mid-century something furniture?
Danish.
Mid-century Danish furniture. Last contestant is Jason Christopher from FERC, where he's the technical lead for smart grid security. He's also a representative of the Federal Smart Grid Task Force and the Smart Grid Interoperability Panel, CSWG, to everybody. He's also very active in IEEE activities in our space, and is competent, if not more so, in SCADA design and implementation. His school, or one of his schools, was Cornell. And for fun, Jason practices photography and mixed martial arts, so don't screw with him.
Just practice.
It's a skill I had to develop as a regulator.
How are we doing for time? We still have time?
We'll take questions.
And scene.
All right. All right, guys. There's this thing that started to happen. It started sometime late last year, not too long after 7628 1.0 came out. And it seems like organizations that didn't used to naturally speak with each other a lot are starting to speak and consider collaboration on some smart grid cybersecurity policy issues. So this thing is called the risk management process, or the energy grid risk management process. Has that been turned into an acronym yet?
Not yet.
No?
The correct title is the Electric Sector Risk Management Process.
ESRMP.
We're working on it. It's not pronounceable yet.
All right, so I'm not going to say too much about it. I think what it is will come out from the responses to the questions, but starting with Bill and representing DOE, and then proceeding down the line through FERC and NERC. Can you describe what specific role your agency plays in addressing smart grid security, and then tune that to the unpronounceable acronym?
Well, Department of Energy, for those of you who don't know, it is by law, the sector-specific agency responsible for the energy sector. That includes the electric grid as well as the control systems and the like for oil and gas. And no, I don't understand why pipelines are the responsibility of the Department of Transportation, but the control system for those pipelines belongs to DOE, it's under responsibility of DOE. The other thing is DOE has no regulatory authority. We are trying to be basically the coordinator, leader, sort of facilitate everything going on in the electric sector, energy sector in general. Specifically, there's a lot of things going on in the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability inside DOE. We interface with NERC and FERC on a variety of areas to exchange information. Rhonda Dunphy and our shop spends a lot of time working with ES, ISAC, and that kind of thing to try to begin building more and more capabilities for threat information sharing and the like. We have folks who work on a regular basis with FERC. I'm not one of them, but we have other offices inside OE that's doing that kind of thing. We're trying to build a better working relationship. One of the things that we started working on, thanks to a suggestion from Andy and Dave Dalva at Cisco, who went over and talked to NERC about some stuff. And out of that came what is now called the Risk Management Process Initiative. They struck a very responsive chord at NERC. Following up with that was a conversation between NIST, DOE, and Mark Weatherford of NERC. And the conclusion was it was time to take the NIST IR, which lays down a large volume of cybersecurity-related information relative to the electric grid, energy sector in general. a whole set of cybersecurity controls that was in volume 1 of that document. The next step is, how do you build a cybersecurity program, an effective cybersecurity program, using that knowledge? Those of you who've been doing this in the federal government or may be aware of it, one of the first things you do is figure out how you manage risk. If you can't do cost-effective risk management, you can't figure out what price of cybersecurity ought to be there. And yes, I understand the NERC SIP compliant kind of stuff. One of the conversations that occurred with Mark was, we need to get to a risk management base for all of our cybersecurity requirements across the grid. We can't give up. Don't go around misquoting me, I guess, misstating me. The goal is not to give up some minimum mandatory cybersecurity requirements. The goal is to, this is my personal opinion now, is to try to get to a minimum baseline that is a clear set of requirements for cybersecurity in all aspects of the grid, not just the bulk infrastructure. But then also have another set of requirements that says you as a stakeholder in the grid need to figure out, need to apply risk management principles so that you have a defined process and a clearly traceable decision process that tells you what kind of cybersecurity requirements you ought to put on each component. The risk of the cybersecurity controls you want to put on a meter on the side of a residence is different than the meter that goes on the hospital, and so on. That needs to be a risk management decision. You don't want a central body telling you you have to do this because one size doesn't fit all. And the minute you try to solve that problem, you get into these huge compliance interpretations and all those kinds of things you all know about. Out of that conversation, thanks to Andy and Dave when they started that, and then Mark and Nist, Marianne and I sat down and talked about it and said, let's start something to try to build this. The short version of this is, this is a DOE-led process. DOE will publish the guideline that comes out of this. It is intended to be a risk management process description that will be applicable to every stakeholder defined for the electric sector. Whether it's the vendors, whether it's service providers, generators, you name it. All of those domains, this has got to be applicable. We're going to define the process. The goal is to try to get a consistent approach to doing risk management. I've not said a word, and I'm going to continue to insist there will be no how-tos in this document. I want to get a consistent, standard, common process that everybody can apply. How you apply it is where your mission, your space, your goals, all of those parameters will be how an individual stakeholder organization will derive its risk management processes and what cybersecurity controls they put in place. One other thing that I've been insisting on is that I will not allow the membership of the core development team, which we've just recently formed, and our subject matter expert team. The core development team must have as many utility representatives on it as we have reps from DOE, NIST, NERC, and FERC. FERC is functioning as observers, primarily to preserve their independent status, and I assume Jason will say more about that in a minute. But I've insisted that we will not have more feds or Fed-type organizations than we have utilities. We have succeeded in doing that, and thankfully the NERC folks and everybody on the federal side have been listening to my rants and tolerating it. We now have representatives of the IOUs, we have some communities, and we have one small co-op right now trying to get another one. I want those voices at the table because I want them to be the primary folks telling us how to apply what is risk management from their perspective. We've started that process. I've given them the group the goal of trying to get the initial draft done by the end of now March, this month. We're not going to make it. My goal is hopefully early April. If we can get that done, we will then start a process of public review, very much like NIST follows for all of its special publications. We'll put it up for public review. Anybody worldwide can comment on it, and we'll take those and resolve those comments and work through it until we resolve everything. We'll do that several times and then publish it, probably this fall, as a guideline. I expect this guideline will then be the basis for how you apply risk management with the how-tos to control systems and the like. So,
This creature that Bill's describing is still relatively embryonic. It's growing quickly, but it's still in its formative stages. It's possible through your insightful and probing questions, which we'll leave plenty of time for at the end, that you'd be able to nudge it one way or another, or at least learn a little bit more about it.